Michael had finally hit rock bottom. His practice was closed, his reputation destroyed, his life shattered by his own choices. The man who had tried to break Jason had broken himself instead. Hey. How was your day? You were having a relaxing time of the day and remembered Reddit cheating stories. Thanks for that. The fluorescent light flickered overhead, casting uneven shadows across Jason's cluttered workbench. His reflection wavered in the grimy garage window, a faint and distorted echo of the man he once was. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, stark against his pale skin, each one a testament to countless sleepless nights. The deep lines on his forehead told of battles fought not with fists, but with the relentless weight of despair and manipulation. The mechanical whir of the garage door broke the heavy silence, descending with the slow inevitability of a prison gate. The final click of the lock reverberated through the garage, sealing him inside. From the house, Amber's laughter shattered the uneasy quiet, sharp and mocking. "Look at you," she called through the door, her voice cutting and dripping with scorn. "Hiding in your little garage. Can't even face me like a man. Can you, Jason?" Jason's fingers gripped the edge of his workbench, his knuckles turning white. The worn wood beneath his hands had once been a source of solace, smoothed by years of careful craftsmanship. Now it felt like the only solid anchor in a world spinning out of control. "Michael would never cower like this," Amber continued, her words deliberate and cruel. "He knows how to handle himself, knows how to handle me." At the mention of their neighbor, a wave of anger surged through Jason. Memories flashed unbidden. Michael's smirks at neighborhood gatherings, the too long glances, the whispered words cut short when Jason approached. "You should be grateful I even let you stay here," Amber sneered, her voice rising. "Your wife deserves pleasure from your neighbor if you can't provide it. Obey mommy, or lose your kids." The threat struck a nerve deeper than Jason thought possible. His vision blurred as rage surged within him. But before he could respond, another voice joined the fray, a voice from his past, one that had shaped the very walls of his despair. "Jason, darling." His mother's sickly sweet tone floated through the house, heavy with condescension. "You know Amber's right. You've always been so difficult, just like your father." Jason's jaw tightened painfully, his teeth grinding together. His mother's manipulations had destroyed his father, driving a wedge so deep it left scars Jason still carried. And now, she was complicit in unraveling his life once more. "Remember what happened when your father tried to stand up to me?" Elaine's voice took on that familiar, lecturing lilt. "He lost everything. Is that what you want, Jason? To lose your children like he lost you?" The sound of their heels clicking against the hardwood grew fainter, their laughter mingling in a duet of venom. Jason remained motionless, his breath uneven in the silence they left behind. Slowly, he moved around the garage, his gaze falling on the tools neatly arranged on the pegboard, the meticulously labeled bins, and the workbench where he had once found peace. This had been his refuge. They had turned it into his cage. But standing there in the quiet, something shifted. The despair that had weighed him down for years began to give way to a clarity he hadn't felt in as long as he could remember. They thought they'd cornered him, stripped him of all options. They were wrong. Jason pulled his phone from his pocket, his fingers hesitating over the screen. 2 weeks ago, he had taken the first cautious steps toward reclaiming his life. Opening his banking app, he checked the balance of the account he had quietly set up under his business name. The numbers on the screen brought a faint, grim smile to his face. It wasn't everything, but it was enough. Enough to start fresh. Enough to protect his children. Their faces flashed in his mind, innocent and bright, untouched by the toxicity that permeated their home. They deserved more than this poisonous environment, better than a life dictated by Amber's cruelty and Elaine's manipulation. At the workbench, Jason opened his laptop and accessed the security camera feeds from the house. The footage from the master bedroom was damning, evidence that would obliterate the carefully constructed facades of both Amber and his mother. He watched in silence, each frame strengthening his resolve. Then his phone buzzed, jolting him back to the present. A text message lit up the screen. Michael's wife. "Have you seen Michael? He's not answering his phone." Jason stared at the message, the weight of it pressing against his chest. The pieces of his plan were falling into place, but this message was another reminder of how far the chaos extended. He straightened, his focus sharpening. They had underestimated him for too long. He wouldn't just survive this. He would break free, reclaim his life, and ensure his children never had to endure the darkness that had shadowed his. The countdown had begun. Jason's lip curled into a bitter smile as his gaze fell on the security footage playing on his laptop. He had seen Michael, all right. The cameras had captured every detail, and as the night deepened, Jason found his mind clearing with every passing hour. First priority, secure a new place to live. He had already identified several properties, far enough to start fresh, but close enough to maintain his business connections. Quietly, he listed the steps required. School transfers for the children, notifying teachers without raising suspicions, and avoiding Amber or his mother catching wind of his plans. Pulling up his contacts, he located his attorney's number, stored under a false name. Tomorrow, he would make the call and set the legal process in motion. The evidence he had painstakingly gathered would guarantee custody. No judge, faced with the damning footage, would side with Amber. As he organized his files, meticulously labeling each piece of evidence, Jason felt a flicker of something long buried. Hope. Not the frantic, desperate hope of a man cornered, but the quiet confidence of someone who held all the cards. The garage grew colder as the night pressed on, but Jason barely noticed. His mind was too consumed with strategy, plans unfolding in his head like pieces on a chessboard. When the faint light of dawn crept through the windows, the sound of the garage door unlocking broke the silence. Amber stood in the doorway, impeccably dressed and made up despite the early hour. She twirled her car keys around her finger, her smile sharp and insincere. "Ready to apologize?" she asked, her voice honeyed with false sweetness. Jason didn't reply. He brushed past her, his shoulder grazing hers as he strode into the house. Amber's voice rose in indignation as she called after him. But he didn't stop, didn't turn. Let her think she still held the upper hand. Soon enough, she would understand how wrong she was. They thought they had broken him, thought they had shaped him into their malleable puppet. But instead, they had forged something stronger, something they wouldn't see coming. As Jason climbed the stairs to shower and prepare for work, he allowed himself a small, fleeting smile. The trap Amber and his mother believed they had constructed was about to become their prison. But first, there was more to be done. The real game was just beginning. 3 months earlier, Jason had made what appeared to be an innocent purchase, a high-end home security system. When Amber questioned the expense, he had deflected, appealing to her vanity. "It's to protect your jewelry collection," he had said, watching her face light up with interest. "And those designer bags you've been collecting?" The cameras arrived discreetly, delivered to his office instead of their home. Each night, while Amber was preoccupied with her social media broadcasts or endless phone calls, Jason quietly installed the devices. The master bedroom camera was the last to go in, hidden inside an ornate wall sconce Amber had insisted on buying, a gaudy decoration that now served a far more useful purpose. The electrician's coming tomorrow to fix the wiring, Jason had told her when she complained about the flickering bedroom lights. In truth, he had created the interference himself, providing the perfect excuse to install the final camera. The first signs of betrayal surfaced within days. Jason sat in his office late one afternoon, his tablet propped against his monitor, as he watched Michael slip through the back door. Amber greeted him with a familiarity that sent a cold fury coursing through Jason's veins. Their body language spoke volumes. "I've missed you." Michael's voice was clear on the high-quality audio. "Your husband still clueless?" Amber's laugh was sharp and cruel. "Jason? He spends all his time in that garage, probably crying about how mean I am to him." She leaned closer to Michael, her tone dripping with venom. "He's pathetic. Not like you." Jason's hand hovered over the screen, his instinct to shut it off battling his resolve. He forced himself to watch, to document, to endure. Every interaction, every whispered word was recorded and encrypted. Each betrayal became another building block in his growing case. The betrayal deepened 2 weeks later. Elaine, his mother, arrived for her weekly visit, but something was different. Jason watched as she stepped through the front door, greeting Amber with a conspiratorial grin. "Is everything ready?" Elaine asked, her voice alight with anticipation. "Michael's on his way," Amber replied. "Jason's at work. He has no idea." Jason's jaw tightened as he watched the scene unfold. His mother and his wife, united in their deceit, plotting behind his back. But this time, he wouldn't let them win. The evidence was mounting, and with every passing moment, their web of lies was tightening around them. What they didn't realize was that the man they believed they had broken was about to dismantle their carefully constructed world, piece by piece. Jason's stomach churned as he watched the footage unfold before him. His own mother, caught in the act of encouraging Amber's infidelity, even participating in it. The betrayal was unbearable, and the footage, undoubtedly damning in court, would destroy their reputations in a single, devastating blow. Yet, that evening, Jason held his composure, feigning ignorance while Elaine dominated the conversation with biting remarks. "You're working too much, Jason," she criticized, exchanging knowing glances with Amber. "A man should be home more, taking care of his wife's needs. Mother knows best," Amber added, her smirk evident as she reached for her wine glass. "You should listen to her more often." Jason nodded in agreement, playing the role they expected of him. "You're right, Mother, as always." The words tasted bitter, but he maintained his neutral expression. Beneath the table, his phone was recording every single word. The following morning marked the beginning of Phase 2 of his plan. The bank manager's office was cool and professional, a fitting backdrop for the business that needed to be done. "I'd like to discuss some investment options," Jason said, sliding a folder across the desk. "For my children's future." By the end of the meeting, Jason had set up 3 new accounts under his business holdings. The manager, an old acquaintance who owed Jason favors, didn't question the unusual arrangement. Later that afternoon, Jason met with his attorney, Marcus Chun, at a coffee shop in a neighboring town, far from any potential acquaintances. "There's no chance of running into anyone who knows Amber or my mother here," Jason assured him. Marcus nodded, reviewing the files on a secure laptop. "The evidence is substantial, but we need to time this perfectly." "One wrong move," Jason interjected, "and they'll take everything. Everything, including my children." Marcus's expression hardened. "Your mother's influence in the community is significant. Amber's family has connections on the school board. We'll need to be thorough," Jason said, pulling a USB drive from his pocket. "I have more." He handed over the recordings of Amber and Elaine planning to have him declared mentally unfit. "They want to force a quick sale of the house, split the profits before I can stop them," Jason continued. Marcus listened intently to the recordings, his eyebrows raised in surprise. "This changes everything. When do you want to move?" "Not yet," Jason replied firmly. "Let them think they're winning. I need them to make mistakes, to slip up. The more evidence we have, the stronger our position." Back at home, Jason stuck to his routine, enduring Amber's taunts and his mother's criticisms while documenting every betrayal with his hidden cameras. The manipulation, the deceit, it was all captured, each moment of his downfall meticulously recorded. Yet Jason was already one step ahead. He found a new home, a quiet 3-bedroom ranch with a large yard, far from his current neighborhood, but still within his business's operational range. The realtor, selected for her discretion, arranged everything under a corporate name. "The paperwork will be ready next week," she assured him. "There will be no connection to your current address." Meanwhile, Amber grew more audacious in her affair, barely concealing Michael's visits anymore, believing she held the upper hand over Jason. But Jason's cameras never stopped recording. Each conversation, every whispered plan, all the scheming was captured. One evening, Jason stumbled upon a conversation that confirmed his worst fears. "Once we have him declared unfit, everything goes to me," Amber told Michael, lounging across their bed. "The house, the business assets, everything. What about the kids?" Michael asked, sounding indifferent. "My mom's friends with the family court judge," Amber replied casually. "It's all arranged. Jason won't know what hit him." What Amber didn't know was that Jason had already secured his children's future. He'd arranged for new schools, set up untouchable trust funds, and secured affidavits from business associates vouching for his mental stability and character. Every night, after Amber fell asleep, Jason stayed awake, reviewing his plans and checking for weaknesses. The cameras blinked silently in their hidden places, capturing every detail of the conspiracy. The trap they thought they had set for Jason was nearly complete, but it was not for him. Soon, very soon, Amber and his mother would face the consequences of their actions. Late one evening, Jason sat in his office, reviewing the mounting evidence on his encrypted laptop. The security camera feeds played out before him, a silent testimony to his wife's betrayal. Each video file was carefully labeled and categorized, a digital archive of destruction that would soon come crashing down. His phone buzzed. Another text from his mother. "We need to discuss your attitude lately." Jason placed the phone face down without replying. From his office window, Jason could see Michael's house directly across the street, the lights blazing brightly in the bedroom window. Michael's wife had left 3 weeks earlier, taking their children with her, and Jason had anonymously sent her a selection of carefully chosen video clips from his security footage. The sound of heels clicking on hardwood floors pulled his attention to one of the camera feeds. In their bedroom, Amber paced, her phone pressed to her ear. "Everything's going according to plan, Mother," she spoke, her voice clear in the high-quality audio. "The property assessor is coming next week. Once we have the house valued, we can move forward with the competency hearing." Jason's fingers flew across the keyboard, tagging another timestamp for his attorney. The front door chime signaled someone's arrival, and another camera feed captured Elaine striding into the house without so much as a knock. "I've spoken with Judge Harrison," Elaine's voice carried upstairs. "He's sympathetic to our situation. A mother knows when her son needs intervention." Jason's jaw tightened as he watched his mother's manipulation unfold. This had always been her way, controlling everything, using everyone around her. She had done it to his father years ago, and now she was attempting the same with him. But this time, Jason wouldn't let her succeed. A knock at his office door pulled him from his thoughts. His son stood there, pajamas slightly disheveled, clutching a school notebook. "Dad, can you help me with my math homework?" he asked. Jason quickly closed the camera feeds. "Of course, buddy, come here." As he helped his son with multiplication tables, Jason's resolve solidified. His children deserved better than this toxic environment. Every move he had made in the past months had been carefully planned to protect them. Later that night, after the children were asleep, Jason received an encrypted email from his attorney. "All preparations are complete. Judges Thompson and Rodriguez are assigned to family court next month. Both have strong records on parental alienation. Property documents are ready. Trust funds established. Give the word and we move." Jason typed a brief reply. "Not yet. One more piece to secure." The following day brought yet another family dinner, another performance in the ongoing drama. Amber sat at one end of the table, his mother at the other, two bookends of betrayal. "Jason, dear," Elaine began, slicing her meat with deliberate precision. "I've been talking with Dr. Peterson. You remember him? My friend from the hospital board, the psychiatrist." Jason kept his voice neutral, though he already knew what was coming. "He's concerned about you," she continued. Amber chimed in, sharing a knowing look with his mother. "We all are. The way you've been acting lately, spending all that time in your garage," Elaine added, "it's not healthy. And those long hours at the office." Amber sighed theatrically. "The children hardly see you anymore." Jason observed his children's faces as the women spoke. His daughter pushed food around her plate, while his son stared down at his lap. Another timestamp for the record. Their emotional manipulation of the minors would not play well in court. After dinner, Jason retreated to his study, ostensibly to work, but actually to monitor the hidden cameras. Sure enough, Amber and his mother lingered in the kitchen, their voices low but clear. "Dr. Peterson will testify about his paranoid tendencies," Elaine said, sipping her wine. "The security cameras, the late nights at work. All classic signs of deteriorating mental health." "Michael's lawyer friend says that's all we need," Amber replied. "Once Jason's declared incompetent, I'll have control of everything. We can sell this place, split the profits, and the children," Elaine said, her voice cold and calculating, devoid of any grandmotherly warmth. "Leverage, He'll sign whatever we put in front of him to keep partial custody, Amber added, with chilling simplicity. Jason clenched his fists as he listened, but his expression remained calm. They had no idea that Dr. Peterson had already provided a sworn statement attesting to his mental competency. They also didn't know that Michael's lawyer friend had been disbarred in 2 states for ethical violations. The following morning, Jason returned to meet with his bank manager, this time to finalize the last of his asset transfers. The transfers are complete, the manager confirmed. All funds have been secured in the new accounts, untouchable by anyone but you. Later that afternoon, another message arrived from Michael's wife. Thank you for the videos. My lawyer says they're exactly what we needed. Everything was falling perfectly into place. The new house was ready. The children's schools have been arranged. The trust funds were established, and the children's rooms were already furnished, waiting for the day they could leave the toxic environment behind. As Jason drove home that evening, he passed Michael walking down the street. The man looked haggard and worn, a stark contrast to the perfect life he once had. His wife gone, his reputation shattered, his lover poised to lose everything. Pulling into his driveway, Jason saw his mother's car parked out front. Through the windows, he could make out Amber and Elaine in the living room, heads bent in quiet conversation, plotting their next move. The cameras would capture every word, every scheme, every detail of their plans. Jason played his part one final time. The dutiful son, the submissive husband, the man they thought they had broken. But beneath the calm exterior, a cold determination coursed through him. The waiting game was nearly over. That night, as Amber slept soundly beside him, confident in her perceived victory, Jason sent a final email to his attorney. Begin tomorrow. No mercy. The storm he had carefully cultivated was about to break, and neither Amber nor his mother would see it coming until it was too late. Their arrogance had blinded them. Their greed had made them careless. They thought they were the hunters, but all along, they had been the prey. As he drifted off to sleep, a small smile tugged at the corners of his mouth. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tomorrow, justice would be served. Dawn broke over the neighborhood as Jason sat in his home office, reviewing the final preparations. The early morning light cast long shadows across his desk, where multiple screens displayed various aspects of his plan. Each monitor told a story of betrayal and impending retribution. His phone buzzed with a message from his attorney, Marcus. Court documents are ready. Judge Thompson's clerk confirmed our slot for tomorrow morning. Are you sure about the timing? Jason typed his response with deliberate calm. Proceed as planned. They'll be at their weakest when they think they're strongest. Through the security feed, Jason watched Amber in the kitchen, already dressed for her morning workout, typing eagerly on her phone. The camera's microphone captured her conversation clearly. Everything's ready for tomorrow, Michael, she said, her voice thick with anticipation. Once Mother presents her concerns to Dr. Peterson, it's just a matter of time. Jason won't know what hit him until it's too late. If only she knew how wrong she was. Jason switched to another feed, checking the master bedroom camera. Last night had provided the final piece of evidence he needed. Amber, his mother, and Michael had been in their bed, plotting every detail of their scheme to strip him of everything. The competency hearing will be our chance, his mother had said, her voice laced with false concern. As his mother, my testimony about his mental state will be crucial. The security cameras, his obsession with work, the time spent alone in his garage. Classic paranoid behavior. Michael had laughed, stretched out across Jason's bed, and said, once he's declared unfit, Amber gets everything. The house, the business, the kids, all of it. The children are our best leverage, Amber had added, her words seething with greed. He'll sign anything we put in front of him to keep partial custody, she'd added smugly. Jason archived the footage, labeling and timestamping each file with precision. His mother's active involvement in the affair would destroy her reputation in the very community she worked so hard to maintain. The footage of her playing a direct role in their betrayal would be particularly devastating. A soft knock at his office door broke his concentration. His daughter stood there, backpack in hand, looking hesitant. Dad, can you drive me today? Mom said she's too busy. Of course, sweetheart. Jason replied, closing his laptop and giving her his full attention. Soon, his children wouldn't have to live in the shadow of their mother's neglect. As they drove to school, Jason studied his daughter's profile. She resembled him so much, and it pained him to see how much the tension at home had affected her. She was quieter these days, hiding the weight of the turmoil she could no longer avoid. But soon everything would change, and the life they had been trapped in would be nothing more than a distant memory. "Everything's going to be different soon," Jason murmured softly, his voice full of quiet conviction. His daughter looked up at him, a flicker of hope in her eyes. "Really? Really?" she asked, her voice filled with the innocent longing only a child could have. Jason squeezed her hand as she opened the car door to get out. Just one more day. Back at his office, Jason sat with his financial advisor, going over the final steps that would ensure the protection of his assets. "The new accounts are completely secured," the advisor confirmed, sliding a stack of papers across the desk. "They won't be able to touch any of it, even with a competency hearing. And the children's trusts? Ironclad. Your wife and mother won't even know they exist until it's too late," the advisor added. Jason signed the final documents, each signature marking the end of their plan and sealing the fate of his wife and mother's schemes. His phone buzzed with a new message from Marcus. Michael's wife's attorney reached out. "She wants to coordinate timing with our filing." Jason allowed himself a brief moment of satisfaction. The destruction of their carefully laid plans was inevitable. Michael would lose everything in his divorce, just as Amber and Elaine would lose everything in the coming confrontation. That evening, Jason sat through another tense family dinner. Amber and Elaine exchanged subtle, knowing glances across the table, their confidence in their victory palpable. They were so certain of their control over him, their arrogance blinding them to their mistakes. They had been so careless in their words, too eager to push forward, and Jason had captured every moment with his hidden cameras. "I've scheduled an appointment with Dr. Peterson for you," Elaine announced, her voice casual as she sliced into her chicken. "Just a friendly chat. We're all so worried about you, dear." "That's very thoughtful, Mother," Jason replied, keeping his tone neutral, playing the dutiful son as expected. "When is it?" he asked, feigning interest. "Tomorrow morning," Amber responded, eager to continue the charade. "I'll drive you there myself." Of course, Amber would. They wanted to present a united front to Dr. Peterson, both of them playing concerned women, worried about his mental state. But what they didn't know was that Dr. Peterson had already provided a very different statement, one that documented their attempts to manipulate him into falsifying a mental health evaluation. Later that evening, Jason retreated to his garage, the place where they thought he was unraveling, knowing that they would use this time to finalize their plans. The cameras recorded everything. "Tomorrow's the day," Elaine's voice rang out, her excitement barely contained. "Once Dr. Peterson submits his evaluation, we can file for an emergency competency hearing. Judge Harrison has already agreed to expedite the process." What they didn't know was that Judge Harrison had been quietly removed from the case after Marcus presented evidence of his connection to Elaine. Judge Thompson, known for his zero tolerance of parental alienation and financial manipulation, would now be handling the case. Late that night, after everyone had gone to bed, Jason made his final preparations. The new house was ready and waiting for him and his children. The schools had been notified, the transfers arranged. Every detail had been executed flawlessly. He sent a final message to Marcus. "Everything is in place. Execute at 9 a.m. sharp. Tomorrow." As Amber and Elaine believed they were springing their trap, they would instead find themselves caught in his. The security cameras had captured every betrayal, every scheme, every manipulation. The financial records showed every attempt to steal his assets. The testimonies were gathered, the evidence organized, the legal documents prepared. As Jason finally lay down to sleep, he felt no remorse for what was about to unfold. They had tried to destroy him, to steal his children, to break his spirit. Instead, they had taught him patience, strategy, and the true meaning of justice. The security cameras blinked silently in their hidden corners, recording these final hours of Amber and Elaine's scheme. Soon, they would understand the consequences of their actions. Soon, they would learn that the man they thought they had broken had become something far more dangerous. A man with nothing left to lose and everything to gain. Tomorrow, the trap would spring, and their carefully constructed world of manipulation and control would crumble. But first, Jason had one final performance to give before the curtain fell on their tragic play. As he lay in bed, listening to Amber's steady breathing beside him, Jason allowed himself a small smile. The time for waiting was over. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tomorrow, justice would be served. The morning sun stretched across Jason's office, casting long shadows as he prepared for the confrontation. His laptop displayed a series of windows, security camera feeds, legal documents, and financial records. The clock on his desk read 8:55 a.m. Jason's phone buzzed. Amber calling. He let it ring twice before answering. "Where are you?" Her voice oozed with feigned concern. "We have the appointment with Dr. Peterson in an hour." "I'm at the office," Jason replied, his tone steady. "Something came up? Why don't you come here instead?" "What? No. You need to come now. Your mother's already here, and we're all worried about—" "I'm sure you are," Jason interrupted, his voice taking on an edge that made Amber pause. "In fact, why don't you both come to my office? There's something we need to discuss." "Jason, you're not thinking clearly," Amber started, but he cut her off. "Be here in 30 minutes, he commanded, "or I start sending the videos to everyone we know." A sharp intake of breath came from the other end. "What videos?" 30 minutes, Amber. Ring Mother." He ended the call, turning to Marcus, who sat in the corner, reviewing documents. "They'll be here soon. The judge is ready," Marcus replied, his voice calm. "Everything's in place," Jason confirmed, his eyes focused on the clock. 28 minutes later, the office door burst open. Amber stormed in, her designer heels clicking against the hardwood floor, with Elaine trailing behind her. "What is the meaning of this?" Elaine demanded, her face flushed with anger. "We're going to be late for your appointment." Jason stood slowly, his expression cold as ice. "Sit down, both of you." Elaine opened her mouth to argue, but Jason cut her off. "I said sit down." His voice was sharp, authoritative, and it made both women hesitate. "Or would you prefer to stand while we watch some interesting home videos?" Amber's face drained of color. "What are you talking about?" Jason turned his laptop around, displaying multiple video windows. "Let's start with last Tuesday night. You, Mother, and Michael in our bedroom. Quite the performance. Why, you've been spying on me?" Amber's voice rose to a shriek. "Spying?" Jason's laugh was cold, mocking. "In my own house? I call it gathering evidence. Would you like to see what else I have?" Jason taunted, his finger hovering over the keys. Elaine stepped forward, shifting into her soothing maternal tone. "Jason, dear, this kind of paranoid behavior is exactly why we're concerned. Installing hidden cameras, making accusations. Save it," Jason snapped, pressing a button on his laptop. Their voices filled the room. "Once he's declared incompetent, we can take everything," Amber's voice declared on the recording. "The house, the business, the children, and my testimony as his mother will seal it," Elaine's voice added, dripping with false sincerity. No judge would question a mother's concern for her son. Jason stopped the playback. "Would you like to hear the part where you discuss using my children as leverage? Or should we skip to the footage of your intimate moments with Michael?" "You can't prove anything," Amber hissed, but her hands were visibly shaking. "Actually, he can," Marcus interjected, standing up to introduce himself. "Marcus Chun, Mr. Walker's attorney. We have extensive documentation of your conspiracy to fraudulently declare my client mentally incompetent, as well as evidence of your affair and financial manipulation attempts." "This is ridiculous," Elaine scoffed. "Judge Harrison would never." "Judge Harrison has been recused due to his connection to you, Mother," Jason interrupted, his voice icy. "Judge Thompson is handling the case now." Jason checked his watch. In fact, he should be reviewing our evidence right now. Amber's eyes darted to her phone, but Jason was ready. "Michael won't answer," he said with a knowing smirk. "He's busy with his own divorce proceedings." Apparently, his wife's lawyer had some very interesting videos to present this morning. "You bastard!" Amber hissed, her fury rising. You think you can just... I already have. Jason cut her off. The house is sold. The accounts are empty. The children's schools have been notified. It's over. The children are mine. Amber and Elaine stood frozen, their faces pale with disbelief as the weight of Jason's words sank in. Their carefully constructed world of manipulation, deceit, and control had collapsed. Jason had outmaneuvered them at every turn, and now they were facing the consequences of their actions. Amber shrieked, leaping from her chair. "No judge will give them to you." Jason calmly clicked another video clip, and Amber's voice filled the room once again, her words revealing her plan to use the children as leverage, to alienate them from their father. "Want to bet?" Jason's voice was cold as ice. "I have hours of footage like this. Every manipulation, every scheme, every betrayal. Would you like our children to see these videos? To see who their mother really is?" "You're bluffing," Elaine declared, but there was a hint of doubt creeping into her voice. Jason clicked open another file on his laptop. Bank statements appeared on the screen, showing systematic attempts to drain company accounts, along with emails discussing their plans to declare him incompetent. There were also clips documenting Amber's activities with Michael and transcripts of conversations about using the children as pawns. He looked up at them, his gaze steady. "Should I continue?" The color drained from both women's faces as they realized just how deeply they had miscalculated. Amber's hands clenched around the arms of her chair, her knuckles turning white. "What do you want?" she whispered, her voice thin with fear. "Everything," Jason replied, his voice like steel. "The divorce papers are already filed. You'll sign over full custody of the children. You'll relinquish all claims to my business and assets. You'll both disappear from our lives, or these videos go public." "You can't do this," Elaine protested, her voice trembling. "I'm your mother, a mother who conspired to destroy her son," Marcus interjected. "The evidence is quite compelling," he added, his tone calm but unyielding. Jason leaned forward, his eyes locked on Amber and Elaine. "You thought you could break me, control me, take everything I love. Instead, you taught me how to fight back. Now, shall we discuss the terms of your surrender?" The air in the office grew thick with tension as Marcus laid the divorce papers across the desk. Amber's hands trembled as she reached for them, her perfectly manicured nails clicking against the polished wood. "This is robbery," she spat, scanning the documents. "You can't possibly expect—" "Keep reading," Jason interrupted, his tone sharp. "You'll find the terms quite comprehensive." Elaine leaned over Amber's shoulder, her face growing paler with each page she read. "This is outrageous. You're demanding full custody? No visitation rights?" Jason's finger hovered over his laptop. "Would you prefer I play the video where you both discuss using my children as pawns? Or perhaps the part where you plan to alienate them from me? Or should we watch the footage of you coaching them to lie about their father's behavior?" "That's not what happened," Amber protested, but her voice wavered. She began, but Jason pressed play. The security footage flickered to life, showing Amber and Elaine in the kitchen with his daughter. "Remember, sweetie?" Amber's recorded voice cooed. "When the nice doctor asks, tell him how Daddy spends all his time in the garage. How he barely talks to you anymore." "But that's not true." His daughter's voice wavered, clearly unsure. "Don't you want to help Mommy?" Elaine's voice cut in, her words cold and manipulative. "Sometimes we have to say things to help the people we love." Jason stopped the playback, his jaw clenched. "Would you like to see more? I have dozens of clips just like this." "You're twisting everything," Elaine accused, but her voice lacked conviction. "We were trying to protect." "Protect?" Jason laughed harshly. "Let's talk about protection, Mother. Should we watch the footage of you participating in Amber's affair? See how you protected your son's marriage?" Amber's head snapped up. "You wouldn't dare make that public. Think of your reputation." "My reputation?" Jason leaned forward, his voice deadly serious. "I'm not the one caught on camera having sex with a neighbor while my mother-in-law watches. How do you think your social circle would react to that, Mother? Your church friends? The hospital board?" Elaine sank back into her chair, her face ashen, her confidence shattered. "You can't," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I can," Jason replied, his voice hard as steel. "And I will." Unless you both sign these papers, Jason said, his voice unwavering. Marcus slid a pen across the desk. Amber stared at it, her eyes wide, as though it were a snake coiled ready to strike. "What about Michael?" she asked quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Michael's marriage ended 20 minutes ago," Jason replied calmly. His wife's lawyer had quite the presentation ready. "Seems he'll be lucky to keep his dental practice after the divorce settlement." Amber's composure faltered. "You destroyed everything." "No," Jason's voice cut through her hysteria. "You and Mother did that. I just documented it." Before Amber could respond, there was a knock at the door. Another lawyer entered, nodding to Marcus. "Judge Thompson has reviewed the evidence," he said. "He's granted the emergency custody order, effective immediately." "What?" Elaine surged to her feet. "Without a hearing? Without my testimony about Jason's mental state?" "Your testimony?" The new lawyer raised an eyebrow. "You mean your conspiracy to commit perjury? That's also been submitted to the ethics board at the hospital where you serve. They're quite interested in reviewing your position." Elaine stood frozen, her authority crumbling. "You can't do this," she whispered. "I'm your mother. I raised you. You manipulated me," Jason corrected coldly. "You controlled me. You tried to destroy me, just like you did to Dad. But I'm not him, Mother. I fight back." Amber's hand grabbed the pen, her movements jerky. "Fine," she muttered. "You win. I'll sign your papers. But you'll regret this, Jason. The children will never have to watch their mother manipulate them again." Jason's voice was icy. "Sign. Both of you. Then get out of my life." As they signed page after page, Jason opened another video on his laptop. The footage showed Amber and Elaine in the master bedroom with Michael. "This copy is for you to keep," Jason said, sliding a USB drive across the desk. "A reminder of why you'll never contact us again. The originals are in a secure location. If either of you ever tries to come near me or my children again, you'd really destroy your own mother's reputation." Elaine's voice was small as she looked up at him. "You stopped being my mother the moment you conspired with my wife to steal my children." Jason's eyes hardened. "Sign the last page." The silence in the room was broken only by the sound of pens scratching against paper. Once they finished, Marcus gathered the documents and nodded to Jason. "It's done," he confirmed. "The house sale closes today. The custody order is in effect. Your accounts are secured." Amber stood on shaky legs. "My things have been packed and moved to a storage unit," she said, her voice breaking. Jason handed her a key. "The code is in the envelope. You have 30 days to collect everything." "And then what?" Amber's voice cracked as she looked up at him. "Where am I supposed to go?" "That's not my concern," Jason said coldly, turning to his mother. "The same applies to you, Mother. Your access to the children's schools has been revoked. Your emergency contact status removed. Your house keys changed." "Jason, please," Elaine pleaded one last time. "We could talk about this." "We're done talking," Jason said firmly, standing up. "The next words from either of you will be in court if you violate the agreements you just signed. Leave now." They walked out like broken dolls, their designer clothes and perfect makeup failing to mask their defeat. As the door closed behind them, Marcus gathered the final documents. "It's really over," he said quietly. "They won't recover from this." "Good," Jason replied, turning his gaze to the window. He watched as Amber and his mother emerged from the building below. They seemed small from this height, diminished. "Have the children been picked up from school?" Jason asked. "The driver is with them now," Marcus confirmed. "They'll be at the new house within the hour." "Everything's ready." Jason nodded, his reflection grim in the glass. They had thought him weak, thought they could break him. But now, it was their world that had crumbled, and his children were safe. They would never have to witness their mother's manipulation again. He had won, but it had come at a great cost. Tomorrow, the rest of their world would fall into place. Instead, they had unwittingly created their own downfall. "Send copies of everything to the ethics board," Jason instructed with a cold edge to his voice. "And to the hospital board. Mother needs to understand the full consequences of her actions." He paused for a moment, his gaze steady. "As for Amber, her social circle will take care of that. Once they learn how she betrayed not just her husband, but manipulated her own children, she'll find out who her real friends are. Jason stood in the driveway of his new home, watching his children explore their front yard. The moving truck had already delivered their belongings, carefully packed and transported while Amber and Elaine had been preoccupied at his office. The weight of the past few days had finally started to lift as the children embraced their new, peaceful life. His phone buzzed, displaying Michael's number. Jason answered with a voice cold enough to chill the air. "You've got nerve calling me?" "Listen, Jason." Michael's voice cracked with desperation. "My wife's lawyer. The footage you sent her. I've lost everything. I'm feeling trapped." Jason's tone held no sympathy. "Funny how that works. You feel trapped now, huh? Let me guess, it's the same way you explained to my wife how to manipulate my children, or how you coach my mother on the best ways to destroy me." Jason's grip tightened on the phone. "Let me explain something to you, Michael. Your dental practice? Check the online reviews tomorrow. Your reputation? Watch how fast your patients disappear when they learn about your ethics." Michael tried to protest, but Jason wasn't done. "You can't. I already have. Your wife's lawyer is thorough. She's making sure every professional board and potential patient knows exactly who you are. Goodbye, Michael." He ended the call just as his daughter approached him, her eyes bright with excitement. "Dad, have you seen my new room? It's perfect." She hugged him tightly. "But when's Mom coming?" Jason knelt to her level, his expression softening. "Remember how we talked about changes? About living in a safer, happier home? Without all the fighting?" His son joined them, his voice small but hopeful. "That's right." Jason pulled them both close. "Your mother made some bad choices. She hurt our family. She won't be living with us anymore." "Is that why Grandma was yelling at the school today?" his daughter asked. Jason's expression hardened. "What do you mean?" "She came during lunch. The principal made her leave. She was saying mean things about you." Before Jason could respond, his phone rang again. It was the principal. "Mr. Walker, I wanted to inform you personally about an incident today." The principal's voice was professional but concerned. "Your mother attempted to remove your children from school. When we showed her the new custody order, she became disruptive." "What exactly did she say?" Jason asked, his voice tense. "She made several accusations about your mental state. Claimed you had manipulated the court." The principal paused. "We've added her to the restricted access list as per your lawyer's instructions. Security footage of the incident has been forwarded to your attorney." Jason's voice was grateful but firm. "Thank you for protecting my children. If either my mother or my ex-wife attempts contact again, we'll contact the authorities immediately," the principal assured him. And after ending the call, Jason gathered his children close. "Listen to me, both of you. Your grandmother and mother might say some harsh things. They might try to make you feel bad or scared. But I promise you, you're safe here. No one will hurt you or manipulate you ever again." His son looked up, his brow furrowed. "I'm serious. Mom said you were sick, that you needed help. But that wasn't true, was it?" "No, buddy." Jason's voice softened with a trace of sorrow. "That was one of their lies. They tried to use you to hurt me, but they won't get that chance again." Inside the house, Jason's phone lit up with new messages. Amber's social circle was crumbling as word of her betrayal spread. The hospital board had convened an emergency meeting regarding his mother's ethics violation. Michael's dental practice was flooded with cancellations as his wife's lawyer exposed his behavior to their community. Jason's attorney called with updates. The judge reviewed the additional footage from the school incident. He's adding a restraining order to the custody agreement. Neither your mother nor Amber can come within 500 feet of you or the children. "Good," Jason replied, his voice a quiet affirmation as he watched his children explore their new backyard through the window. They had thought they could break him. They had thought they could destroy everything he held dear. Instead, it was their world that had crumbled. And now, Jason had his children safe, free from the manipulation and deceit that had once defined their lives. They could start over. The financial transfers? Complete. Marcus confirmed over the phone. Amber's attempts to access the accounts have been blocked. Your mother's influence with the bank board has been neutralized. The evidence of their conspiracy made quite an impression. A text from Michael's wife appeared on Jason's phone. "Thank you for the evidence. My lawyer says it's bulletproof. You won't know what hit him." Jason allowed himself a small smile. The trap had sprung perfectly, catching all of them in their own web of lies and manipulation. Amber's carefully cultivated social status was crumbling. His mother's reputation as a community leader was in tatters, and Michael's professional life was in ruins. Just then, the doorbell rang, signaling his new neighbors bringing welcome gifts. Jason straightened his shoulders, ready to embrace this new chapter in their lives. Behind him, his children's laughter filled the house, no longer stifled by toxic manipulation. His phone buzzed one last time. It was Amber again. Her text was desperate. "The country club revoked my membership. My friends won't answer my calls. Please, Jason, you have to stop this." Jason deleted the message without a second thought. Let her experience the isolation she had tried to force on him. Let her feel the helplessness she had wished on him for so long. The security system chimed, indicating motion at the front gate. On the camera feed, Jason watched as Elaine's car slowed down as she drove past. She didn't stop. The restraining order was already in effect, and for once in her life, his mother had no power to control him. As the evening settled over their new home, Jason sat at the dinner table with his children. They were laughing excitedly about their new rooms, the new yard, their new beginning. The weight of years of manipulation had lifted from his shoulders. They were free. His lawyer sent a final update. Amber's attempt to challenge the custody order was rejected. Your mother's position on the hospital board has been terminated. Michael's practice is facing an ethics investigation. It's done. Jason looked at his children, saw their smiles, heard their genuine laughter. Yes, it was done. The trap had sprung. Justice had been served, and they would never again have to live under the shadow of manipulation and control. 3 months after the confrontation, Jason sat in his home office, reviewing the cascade of destruction his evidence had triggered. His laptop displayed multiple news articles, each detailing another piece of his opponent's downfall. His phone rang. It was Marcus with updates. "The hospital board's decision is final," Marcus reported. "Your mother's position has been terminated effective immediately. They're even reviewing past decisions she influenced." "How did she take it?" Jason's voice was cold, showing no sympathy. "Not well," Marcus replied. "She tried to claim discrimination, but when they showed her the footage of her participating in Amber's affair, Jason didn't need to hear more. She left the building escorted by security." "I take it?" Marcus paused. "Exactly." Just then, a notification popped up on Jason's screen. An email from Michael's wife's attorney. "Hold on, Marcus," Jason said, clicking on the email link. The video from a court hearing filled his screen. Michael stood before a judge, his once confident demeanor shattered. "Your Honor," Michael pleaded, "my practice is ruined. My wife has taken everything. I can't even afford. Perhaps you should have considered the consequences before engaging in adultery with your neighbor's wife," the judge interrupted, "and conspiring to fraudulently declare him mentally unfit." The judge turned to the court. "The court finds in favor of Mrs. Davidson." Jason sat back, the weight of their downfall settling in. Everything had unraveled just as he had planned. The price for their betrayal had been steep, and now they were all paying for it. "You will surrender your remaining assets as ordered." Jason's doorbell rang, and through the security camera, he saw Amber standing on his porch. Her once flawless appearance had shifted. Her designer clothes were replaced by department store attire, and her perfect makeup was now marred with signs of stress and tears. "I should handle this," Jason said to Marcus, his tone resolute. "Keep me updated on Mother's appeals." "Of course," Marcus replied, his voice steady. "But remember, she's violating the restraining order just by being there." Jason opened the front door, but remained behind the security screen. "You're not supposed to be here, Amber. Please," she pleaded, her voice cracking. "Everything's gone. The country club canceled my membership. My friends won't take my calls. I can't even get a job because of the videos." "The consequences of your own actions," Jason replied, his voice cold as ice. "Did you think I wouldn't fight back? That I'd just roll over and let you steal my children?" "I made a mistake," Amber whispered, tears streaking down her makeup. "I'll do anything. Just call off the lawyers. Stop the videos from spreading. Like you were going to stop when you tried to declare me mentally unfit." Jason's eyes narrowed, his patience running thin. When you coached our children to lie about me, that was your mother's idea, wasn't it? And you went along with it. Amber opened her mouth to speak, but Jason cut her off. Just like you went along with her when she joined you and Michael in our bed. Amber's eyes widened in shock, but Jason didn't let up. Tell me, Amber, what kind of mother involves her mother-in-law in her affair? A police car turned onto the street, responding to the silent alarm Jason had triggered. Amber saw it and backed away from the door. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "You've destroyed everything." "No," Jason said firmly, his voice unwavering. "You did that yourself. Every scheme, every manipulation, every betrayal. That was your choice. I just made sure you couldn't hide them anymore." The police car stopped in front of the house, and two officers approached, their expressions professional but stern. "Ms. Walker," one officer called out, "you're in violation of a restraining order. Please step away from the house." Amber's voice rose hysterically. "He's ruined my life. My own children won't even." "Ma'am, step back now, or we'll have to take you into custody." As the officers led Amber away, her mascara running down her face, Jason's phone buzzed with a new message from his mother. "The church board wants to meet. They've seen the videos. Please, son, if you ever loved me." Jason deleted the message without responding. Let her face the consequences of her actions. Let her explain to her precious social circle why she participated in her daughter-in-law's affair, why she tried to destroy her own son. He heard his children laughing in the family room, their voices carefree and genuine now that they were away from the toxic environment. His daughter's voice carried down the hall. "Dad, can we have pizza for dinner?" "Of course, sweetheart." Jason smiled, the first real smile of the day. "I'll be right there." His phone lit up again with another update from Marcus. Elaine's appeal was rejected. The restraining order stands. She's been removed from all hospital committees, and the ethics board is launching a full investigation into her past decisions. "Perfect," Jason replied, his voice flat with satisfaction. His mother's carefully constructed social empire was crumbling, just as she had once tried to crush his spirit. The woman who had manipulated everyone around her, driven his father away, and tried to destroy her own son, was finally facing the consequences of her toxic behavior. 1 week after Amber's failed attempt to confront Jason, the local newspaper's headline read, "Hospital board member removed amid scandal." Jason read the article over his morning coffee, each word another nail in his mother's social coffin. His phone rang, displaying a number he didn't recognize. When he answered, he heard his mother's voice, thin with desperation. "Jason, please, you have to stop this." Elaine's usual commanding tone had crumbled into something barely recognizable. "The hospital board, my friends at church, everyone's seen those horrible videos." "Horrible?" Jason's voice turned sharp. "You mean the truth? The evidence of what you did?" "I'm your mother," Elaine pleaded, her voice trembling. "Everything I did was to control me, to destroy me, just like you did to Dad." Jason's grip tightened on his phone. "Tell me, Mother, did the church board enjoy watching you participate in your daughter-in-law's affair? Did you explain to them how that was for my own good?" "You don't understand," Elaine's voice faltered. "I was trying to protect. Save it for your ethics hearing." Jason cut her off, his voice cold and final. Jason cut his mother off, his voice unwavering. "Though I doubt the medical board will be as understanding as you hope. Goodbye, Mother." "Jason, wait." He ended the call, silencing her desperate plea. His thoughts were interrupted by the alert from his security system, indicating movement at the front gate. Jason watched the monitor as Michael pulled up in what looked like a rental car, a stark contrast to his usual luxury vehicle. Moments later, the doorbell rang. Jason pressed the intercom button. "You're violating the restraining order, Michael. Please, just 5 minutes." Michael's voice crackled through the speaker, thick with frustration. "My practice is ruined. My wife took everything in the divorce. I'm facing an ethics investigation from the dental board." "Interesting, isn't it?" Jason replied, his tone cold and unforgiving. "Karma's a strange thing. How does it feel to lose everything? To have your life torn apart by someone else's choices?" "I'll do anything," Michael begged. "Just call off your lawyers. Ask your friend on the dental board too, like you were going to call off your lawyer friend when you planned to declare me unfit." Jason's voice remained devoid of sympathy. The officers are already on their way. I'd leave if I were you." As Michael's car peeled away, Jason's phone buzzed with a text from Amber's sister. "She's living in my guest room. No one will hire her. Her therapist says she's having a breakdown." Jason typed back a single, direct response. "Your children deserve to know their mother." He paused, then added, "They deserve to be free from manipulation. Don't contact me again." Moments later, his lawyer called. The ethics board's decision came down, Marcus said, his voice brimming with satisfaction. "Your mother's been permanently barred from serving on any hospital committees. They're also recommending she be removed from all charitable organizations due to moral turpitude." In her church position, the board voted unanimously to remove her from all leadership roles. Marcus's satisfaction was palpable. The videos were quite convincing. "Good," Jason responded, his eyes drifting to the window as he watched his children play in the backyard, their faces relaxed and carefree. "What about Amber's latest appeal?" Jason asked. "Denied. The judge was particularly interested in the footage of her coaching your daughter to lie about you. She won't be getting visitation rights anytime soon." Jason's phone buzzed again with another update. A local news website had posted a new article about Michael's dental practice. The headline read, "Local dentist faces ethics investigation, practice closure imminent." Sources say patient exodus followed revelations of personal misconduct. Jason read aloud to himself. His phone buzzed once more, a text from his mother, but from a different number. The message was full of desperation. "The hospital board is reviewing every decision I've influenced in my entire career. Everything I built. Please, son." Jason's expression remained cold as he blocked the new number without responding. Let her face the consequences of her actions. Let her feel the powerlessness she had inflicted on others for so long. Through his security cameras, Jason watched a moving truck pull up to Michael's house. The man who had played a part in destroying Jason's marriage was now losing his home, just as his practice crumbled around him. His daughter's voice called from the kitchen. "Dad, can you help me with my science project?" "Coming, sweetheart," Jason smiled, turning away from the monitors. His children were thriving now, free from the toxic influence of their mother and grandmother. Another email notification appeared. This one from the country club board regarding the termination of both Mrs. Walker's and Mrs. Davidson's memberships. Justice was serving itself, one devastating blow at a time. Amber's social circle had imploded, her reputation destroyed by her own actions. His mother's carefully constructed image of respectability had shattered, leaving her to face the consequences of her manipulation. 6 months after the confrontation, Jason stood in his backyard, watching his children play with their new friends from the neighborhood. The weight of the past was lifted. The storm of lies and betrayal had passed, and for the first time in a long while, peace reigned in his life. The sound of genuine laughter filled the air, a stark contrast to the tense silence that had once haunted their old home. Jason's phone rang, Marcus with the final updates. "The last appeal has been rejected," his lawyer reported. Amber's attempt to modify the custody agreement failed spectacularly. The judge even cited her continued harassment as evidence that supported the original decision. Jason paused for a moment. "How did she react?" "She broke down in court," Marcus said, his voice tinged with a quiet satisfaction. "She started screaming about conspiracy and revenge. They had to escort her out." Jason moved inside to take the call privately. "She's living in a small apartment now, working as a retail clerk," Marcus continued. "Quite a fall from her social throne." Jason's expression hardened, but he didn't let it show. "And my mother?" "Even worse," Marcus replied, his tone filled with quiet finality. "The hospital board's investigation uncovered decades of manipulation and ethical violations. They're even considering legal action. She's been removed from every charitable organization in the city. Her church asked her to find a new congregation." Jason's security system pinged with movement at the front gate. The camera showed Elaine standing there, her designer outfit replaced by discount store clothing, her once perfect hair showing streaks of gray. Jason glanced at his phone before turning to Marcus. "I have to go. Mother's making another attempt. Want me to call the police?" Marcus asked. "Not yet. Let's see what she has to say this time." Jason walked toward the gate, maintaining a safe distance. Elaine's hands trembled as she gripped her purse tightly. "You've won, Jason," she said, her voice hollow. "Is that what you wanted to hear? You've destroyed everything I built. My reputation, my position, my whole life." Jason's voice was like steel. "Like you tried to destroy mine? Like you destroyed Dad's? I was protecting you." Elaine's voice cracked, the facade of control slipping. "Everything I did was for control." Jason cut her off. Every manipulation, every scheme, every betrayal, it was all about control. "Tell me, Mother, how does it feel to be powerless? To watch everything you built crumble around you?" Elaine's shoulders slumped. "I'm living in a tiny apartment," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "My friends won't take my calls. The hospital board is threatening legal action." Jason's words fell like hammer blows. "Please, son, I'm not your son anymore." "You lost that right," Jason replied coldly, "when you conspired with my wife to steal my children. When you participated in her affair. When you tried to destroy me, just like you destroyed Dad." Elaine's voice rose in hysteria. "Your father was weak. He couldn't handle a mother like me. He escaped your manipulation, just like I did." Jason's finger hovered over the security system's police alert. "Leave now, or I'll call the police. The restraining order is still in effect." Elaine, her face a mask of defeat, turned and walked away. As she disappeared down the street, Jason's phone buzzed with a news alert. The headline read, "Prominent dentist files bankruptcy following ethics investigation." Michael had finally hit rock bottom. His practice was closed, his reputation destroyed, his life shattered by his own choices. The man who had tried to break Jason had broken himself instead. Jason found his daughter working on her homework at the kitchen table. "Dad," she asked hesitantly, looking up at him. "I saw Grandma at the gate. Is she trying to hurt us again?" Jason sat beside her, his voice calm but firm. "No, sweetheart. She can't hurt us anymore. None of them can." His son joined them, his voice small but hopeful. "I heard Mom lost her job again. Aunt Susan says she's really sad." Jason sighed, choosing his words carefully. "Your mother made choices. Bad choices that hurt our family. Now she's facing the consequences of those choices." His daughter's expression softened as she processed his words. "Like when you showed the videos to everyone. The ones of Mom and Grandma being mean?" "Exactly," Jason said, squeezing her hand. "Sometimes the truth is the best weapon against people who try to hurt us." Later that evening, as Jason prepared dinner, another news alert caught his eye. Society scandal continues. Former hospital board member faces legal investigation. His mother's carefully constructed world had completely crumbled. The weight of the past few months was still heavy, but Jason knew that they were now free from the toxic grip of manipulation. For the first time in a long time, they could look ahead without the looming threat of betrayal or control. The woman who had once manipulated everyone around her, driven her husband away, and tried to destroy her own son, was now facing the full consequences of her toxic behavior. Amber's latest attempt at redemption arrived in the form of a tear-stained letter begging for forgiveness. Jason didn't bother reading it. Without a second thought, he fed it into the shredder. Amber had lost everything: her social status, her comfortable lifestyle, her reputation, and most importantly, the power she had once wielded to manipulate their children. As the shredder whirred, Jason felt a sense of finality. She was no longer a threat. The doorbell rang, snapping him back to the present. Through the security camera, he saw his children's teacher standing on the porch, holding a stack of papers. The teacher smiled warmly as she began to speak. "They're like different children now," she said, her voice full of genuine warmth. "So much happier, more engaged. Whatever changes you've made at home, they're working wonderfully." Jason watched his children in the kitchen through the window, setting the table for dinner. Their movements were relaxed, their smiles unforced. The dark cloud of manipulation and control that had haunted their lives had lifted, replaced by the warmth of honest love and security. His phone buzzed with a final message, Michael's last desperate plea. "My wife took everything. My practice is bankrupt. The dental board revoked my license. You've destroyed me." Jason read the message with a mixture of indifference and resolve. He typed a brief, pointed response. No, you destroyed yourself. Actions have consequences. As he sat down to dinner with his children, listening to their excited stories about school and friends, Jason felt the final weight lift from his shoulders. The trap he had set had sprung perfectly, catching all his enemies in their own web of lies and manipulation. Amber, once the proud social butterfly, now struggled to make ends meet, her life stripped of luxury and status. His mother, the master manipulator, had lost everything: her power, her position, and her reputation shattered by her own cruel choices. Michael, the arrogant neighbor who had joined in their betrayal, had lost his marriage, his practice, his comfortable life, and most importantly, the children were free. Free from manipulation, free from toxic influence, free to grow and thrive in an environment of truth and love. They would never again have to witness their mother's cruel games or their grandmother's underhanded schemes. The security cameras that had once captured their betrayal now stood as silent sentinels, watching over a home filled with happiness, warmth, and genuine care. Jason's thoughts were interrupted by his daughter's voice, soft and hopeful. "Dad, can we have ice cream for dessert?" Jason smiled, a genuine, warm smile that reached his eyes. "Of course we can, sweetheart. We have a lot to celebrate." As the sun set on their new home, casting long shadows across the yard, Jason watched his children play. So many happy memories were already being made in this peaceful, secure environment. Inside, the sound of their laughter echoed through the rooms. The sweetest sound of victory Jason could imagine. He had won, not through revenge or punishment, but simply by exposing the truth. The web of lies and manipulation had been unraveled, and his children were free to grow, to laugh, and to live a life unburdened by the toxic forces that once sought to control them. Thank you for watching today's video. Jason and his family's story serves as a powerful reminder that sometimes the best revenge isn't retaliation, but simply letting the truth speak for itself. When everything falls apart, only love and truth remain. We can't change the past, but we have the power to build a better future, one free from the influence of those who try to manipulate and control us. Wishing you all strength in the face of challenges and the courage to stand firm against any adversity. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next video. See you soon.